Hey everybody, Jeff Schneider here, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite ways to get that slick, sick, soulful, stanky sound on the keys with these really juicy chords. But before we get into it, real quick, my spring sale is almost over, so make sure to use the code SPRING30 on my website to save 30% on all of my courses, my chord packs. Everything in the store is on sale, so check that out, especially if you want to dig into more of these kinds of concepts and ideas to elevate your piano playing. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to take a juicy voicing. You can use it on any voicing, but if it's a hipper voicing to begin with, it's going to sound better. So we're going to start with something like this, an A minor 11 chord. I'll teach you this real quick in case you don't know it already. It's A, E, B, C, D, and G. But the important thing is that you know the numbers associated with those notes. So remember, it's A minor 11. So A is the 1, E is the 5, then B is the 9, C is the 3, D is the 11, also the 4, but we're going to call it the 11. And then the G on top is the 7. Now, that top note is going to be really important for this technique, so keep that in mind. But you essentially need to know the formula here is 1, 5, 9, 3, 11, 7. Now, let's take a melody. Okay, and we're going to harmonize that melody using this voicing. So we're going to take our A minor 11 voicing, and then, well, I'll just play it for you, and then I'll explain what I'm doing so you can follow along. So you can already tell how sick this sounds, and there's so many possibilities here, but let's break this down. So what I'm doing here is using the same voicing for all of the different melody notes. This is called planing, actually. There's a real term for this. And again, the most important thing is that you remember that the 7 is on top. So then what you can do is you go through your melody notes. The next note in the melody in this case is F. So you have to ask yourself, if F is the 7, what chord are you playing? F is the 7 of G minor 7 or G minor 11. So we're going to build out a G minor 11 chord using that same formula. 1, 5, 9, 3, 11, 7. And we're going to do the same thing for the next note. It's an E. Ask yourself the question. If E is the 7, what chord is this? It's going to be an F sharp minor 11. 1, 5, 9, 3, 11, 7. And then you keep doing that for all of the notes in the melody. Now, maybe you don't want a new chord for every note in the melody. That's fine, there's a workaround. So let's take the melody again, and let's take the end of that phrase. Now, we're starting with the C. Ask yourself the question, if C is the 7, what chord is it? Another way to quickly figure this out, by the way, is, okay, we know the 7, and in this case it's the minor 7, is going to be a whole step below the root of the chord. Meaning, if you take your melody note, if it's a C, and that's the 7, what's a whole step above C? A D. So the root of the chord is D, so it's D minor 11. That might help you figure out what the chord is a little bit faster. But also, before I go on, I should mention that this exercise is not only a great sounding way of getting some cool chords, but it's also just a great exercise for learning a voicing. So for instance, if you have my chord pack Sick Chords Volume 1 and you really like a voicing from that collection, you can take that one voicing and take it through a melody like this so that you get it under your fingers in all of these different keys. It's kind of like transposing something in all 12 keys, but doing it in a much more musical way. So let's go back to our phrase here. That's the end of our Deck the Halls phrase. And instead of doing a new chord for each note in the melody like this, which sounds cool, we can actually use the same chord for multiple melody notes. Now, this isn't always going to work, but you can ask yourself, okay, we have the C, and then the next note in the melody is a D. Now, does the D work on a D minor 11 chord, which is the chord we have here? Yes, of course, D works on D minor 11. In fact, the E works on D minor 11 too. So if you have these groups of notes that work on the same chord, then you don't necessarily have to change chords if you don't want to. So that's going to sound like this. Now that's probably too much D minor 11 in my opinion. I kind of want to hear a bit more of a balance here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the D minor 11 for the C and the D, but when I get to the E in the melody, I'm going to change chords. So let's use that technique I used before. E is the melody note, it's the 7. So what's a whole step up from E? F sharp, meaning we're going to play an F sharp minor 11 chord, like so. All right, so the end of the phrase is going to sound like this now. That feels really balanced. It's not a chord every single melody note, but it's enough harmonic activity to keep me interested. Here's the whole thing all together. Now, what if you want to keep the same chord, but that next note in the melody doesn't fit the previous chord? Like for instance, the beginning of our melody here, we have a G and then F. Now that F, it doesn't fit the A minor 11 so well. So we're going to have to change our original chord to make it work with both the G and the F. So then you can ask yourself, okay, what chord works with both G and F? And this opens up a world of possibilities. How about F minor? That G is the 9 of F minor, so we can play this voicing. And then the F, of course, works on F minor because it's F. And then from there, we can go on with the rest of the chord progression. So F minor, or F minor 9, keep the same chord, and then we switch to our F sharp minor 11. One more time. So you see, we have this control of our harmonic rhythm now. We can determine how fast we want our chords to go by. I do like it when you have a new chord for every note in the melody, but yeah, sometimes if the tempo's a little fast or if you have a fast line in the melody, it's not practical. So you have to make that decision. It's up to your taste. And remember, that spring sale is almost over. So if you want to dig into more of my methods and techniques for how to elevate your chord progressions and get this more advanced sound in your playing, be sure to use that code SPRING30 at checkout and go explore Chord Theory for R&B Piano or Sick Chords Volume 1, Stanky Loops, all really fantastic resources for bringing your piano playing to the next level. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.